loan, which is a 30-year loan. Their interest rates, they determine at closing, but their interest rates are about 1.5 below what a market rate would be. So you're looking at probably somewhere between a 2.5% to 3% rate for that. And then the city did qualify for $1 million in principal forgiveness, so that's grant, free money. And then there's $105,000 for an asset management plan, which is at a 0% interest rate for that portion. Now, you might recall, because we talked about before, how the city qualifies for 70% forgiveness. So we were really hopeful that the whole project would get that 70% forgiveness. And unfortunately, the project was number 53 on the list for the drinking water side, and they ran out of a lot of their principal forgiveness with projects that were ranked higher. So you'll still receive the $1 million, but we were really hoping you would receive a lot more for the project. The Clean Water SRF is the fund for the wastewater project, and that one for the city is ranked number 52 on their list for this year, and they've only invited down through number 22 right now. They anticipate doing additional invitations. I did call them today just to see if they had a timeline on that. They said more invitations would be coming out by the end of this month, but they didn't know if they'd make it down to number 52 yet. Once invited, the city basically would submit an application just like we did for drinking water, and it would take probably about 6 to 9 months by the time they would take it to their board, and then you close on the funding to move forward with it. I've told them the city is still very interested because of the rest of the project being designed and ready to go. The backup plan is if the Clean Water SRF funding is not, if the city's not invited by later this fall, they have another fund called Development Fund, which is closer to their market rate loan. It's a little bit of a better subsidy than most cities would receive because it's based on a AAA rating of the Texas Water Development Board. So that would be a backup supply of funding if needed. And what we'll talk about in a little bit is that Mr. Tiarina will issue essentially short-term bonds for a portion of the project, and what can happen is if TWDB does that invitation, it can be refinanced through the TWDB funding for long term. Okay, so this is the project schedule. So next step is it'll go to the Texas Water Development Board for their approval by their board mid-August. At that point, we can also submit the engineering plans. So the plans are done, and they just need to be submitted at this point, but we need to have their board approve the loan first, and then we can submit them. Then we will go ahead and bid the project a little bit later this year. You can see the timeline here. And then award contracts, and the notice to proceed would be late this year. Now, the part that we need to talk about a little bit here is we do have the conflict with TxDOT because of the sidewalk improvements that they're doing. And so really what we're trying to do is hurry up to get this project moving because TxDOT is wanting to do sidewalk improvements in the same exact area. And certainly we don't want to have them put in sidewalks to then tear them up to put in water lines and wastewater lines. It makes no sense. So we're trying to hurry up getting the loan and get the project started, especially where there's a conflict. So then as soon as we're done with the water line, the wastewater line, they can come right behind us and do those sidewalk improvements. So that's where the timeline is shown there as far as us trying to expedite things. Next slide. So this is just to give you a better illustration of what part is in conflict. So it's essentially from the high school north there, it's about half as far as we have to go when traveling north there from the high school. That would be in conflict. So that's the area in which we want to expedite the project. Now, as far as from a funding perspective, what that looks like, and Mr. Reyes is probably going to want to detail this more, is that if we bifurcate the project into phase 1 and phase 2, the first part from a wastewater funding standpoint would be roughly $3.5 to $4 million worth of work that is just getting out of the way of TxDOT to stay ahead of them. The remainder of that project, which includes both lift stations and then the remainder of the wastewater lines, that would wait until there's either the development fund money or the Clean Water SRF money from the Water Development Board, which hopefully wouldn't be too far behind it. But that's, the first goal would be getting the water line, wastewater line done, getting out of TxDOT's way so they can then proceed with their part, so you don't lose any grant funding relating to getting sidewalks done.
Part of the challenge has been, is really, I mean, we really, I believe we're ready to go as far as the project is shovel ready, if you will. We're ready to go to construction. Well, I say construction, we're ready to go out for bid. The sidewalk has been a problem. It is a problem. Meaning, we've met with TxDOT, they're saying that there has to be an action plan on our end to do at least what I'm calling phase one of that project, which is this project. What you see in the bubble there, that is our, we're in essence in their way. Their sidewalk project is about $1.2 million that they are gonna put in sidewalks. But again, this is something that we have to move forward with. My recommendation to the council is to move forward with the first phase and then, look for the funding still for the phase, what I call phase two, the remaining part of the water, the wastewater, project that hasn't been funded, or it's not funded right now. So that, what I'm talking about with phase two is that green part there, where you see the end of that bubble there, it would be to your right, I think, that remaining part and the lift stations is a remaining project, which is phase two. So that's what we're asking for. Again, we're not asking for anything or not. We want to give you an update to let you know that this is something that we have to move on, because we are getting, TxDOT is not, they have I'll share this with you. When we met with them, sometime last month,
3 weeks ago.
they have a project that they already have their sidewalk project bid out. They're going to construction in August for a project they have going in San Antonio. They bid this project at the same time. And so after they get done with San Antonio, which they're anticipating is gonna be 6 months, they're moving to Pearsall to start the sidewalk project here. So, that puts us about February, give or take, for them to start construction here with, the sidewalk project. And so that's where on our end, we're in a time crunch because I hate to tear up their sidewalks. If we can avoid it, that would be preferable. But working this timeline with what we have here, what Stacy had presented, and what you also have with what Robert presented, he gave you a timeline here in your packet of Tuesday, July 30th. He wants to have a special city council meeting to present the plan of finance and the notice of intent. And again, this is what we're talking about here is phase one. What I'm talking is phase one of the project. And then on Tuesday, September 24th, I'm not gonna get into all of them. I mean, there's a lot of dates there. I gave you a lot of information, but I will give you Tuesday, September 24th, was a special city council meeting presentation for the final competitive bid results and approval of the sale of the bonds. And then the closing is gonna be October 24th. So it is moving, it will move fast. So again, we're talking phase one. It's a lot to do between here and there, but it's either that or really look really bad tearing up some TxDOT sidewalks.
And council, I will share with you that Fred and I met with both the local and the regional engineer, and they did push it back since they had a two project, and we told them, they said, okay, we can do San Antonio first to give, otherwise they would have started in, August or September, but anyway, so, and to understand fully, if they don't do this project, they're losing their funding. So they're going to rock in a hard place. So anyway, we've got people pushing on it and moving on it.
I can't get Robert on the phone, but part of what we're discussing is as far as the financing, and you guys are aware, part of what we're trying to do, and he's working on is, the first few years of vacuum retaining the loan, what we're trying to do is basically create the financing for the first 2 or 3 years. Our payments will be minimal. Well, they'll be a lot less than if you were paying principal and interest. And then we get out of the debt service in 2027. We get out of the 2012 bond. And so we're anticipating once we get out of that debt service that we'll have some room to be able to pay what we need to pay for the remaining part of this project. And that's the goal, is to find it to where it doesn't hurt the community, where we're increasing rates astronomically. We don't want to do that. That's the goal.
So you think we'll be able to pursue with this project ahead of the tech stop, and?
We need to, and again, we're trying to be as flexible, they're trying to be as flexible as they can with us. And so we need to move because, I anticipate that they will probably here sometime the first quarter of the calendar year. I don't know if February is the date, but I would say no later than March, they will be here starting construction, on those sidewalks. So, again, that's something that we need to stick, as best we can, stick to this timeline, at least to do first phase of the project. I hate to say that we have more time to do the second phase, but that's what we're asking for right now, is give us some time to get the second phase funding, the remaining funding for that part of the project.
Do we have an issue, or is there something going on with the board, and approving or getting to this process? Because we've been talking on this for quite.
As a former employee of the Water Development Board, I would leave that to Ms. Barnett to answer. I don't know.
So, no, but, I mean, the city has done absolutely nothing wrong. The board has had some issues just because they did get a lot of funding dropped on them from the bipartisan infrastructure law. They've been extremely slow queuing up projects and working them through the process. So, I mean, from the time we submitted the application with their review, they've actually been pretty quick for their review. It just took them a long time to get through the process of getting them on the list, getting their list approved, inviting everyone. And so it's just, it takes a little while for that. I was hoping they would have some extra money for clean water, that we could do that one right away and have that right in with it, just because it does take them a good, I would say from the time you submit an application, it should take them about 4 months, and that was always the goal when I was there, was 4 months to get it to their board to review it and approve it. And then you have to close it, just like you would do a regular loan closing, and that can be 60 to 90 days normally. That's where your FA and bond counsel come in, so that's why I usually say, maybe 6 months, could be 9 at most if they have more questions. But that's normally what we're looking at. It just takes a little while. And this project's been on their list. This was the second year that was on the list. And so last year it didn't get invited. So this year at least we did get invited. And even for the clean water one, we include it even on next year's list, just in case. So we continue to submit it, hoping it gets the best ranking and gets invited for the best possible deal.
So I think I would be ready to listen to Plan B if worse comes to worse, and not wait around for the water board to develop, because, like I said, TxDOT, if they come into play and then we haven't go in there and tear whatever they develop, it's not a good thing, so.
So let me just mention real quick, so development fund was kind of our plan B, which is another loan that is non-competitive with the Water Development Board. It's a slightly higher interest rate, but it follows their state rules instead. So I know you can definitely get that, and we would just have to, if the SRF money doesn't work out, we would have to just shift gears by fall to do that. I will say that I did the same thing for City of Cotulla a handful of years ago, when they had a project that just couldn't get the money quick enough. And I worked with Robert actually, and we ended up putting water and wastewater projects together under a development fund loan so they could get going on their projects too.
Those deep funds, is that a 30-year note?
You can go up to 30, it's a 20 or 30.
And Stacy, as I understand correctly, if we do an interim funding short term, we could possibly still be approved for the Texas Water Development Board, possibly, and get, and then repay that with something that gives us a discount or a grant of some kind.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's conceivable to do that. Okay. So yeah, we've got a lot of things happening in a short period of time, and thankfully Fred and Stacy are on it, and Yolanda watching this, and we're looking at that calendar really close. We've got to get dirt turned before those sidewalks. Any other questions for Stacy or Fred? Thank you very much, Stacy. Appreciate you coming down. Going on to item 8C, presentation and introduction of Clarence Capital Partners and their interest in investing in a natural gas location and distribution entities. This is a presentation for Fred.
Mayor and Council, unfortunately, Clarence Capital Partners was gonna zoom in, and we are not zooming anybody. Nobody's able to zoom in, is my understanding.
Table it for next meeting?
Table it, they wanna give, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Next meeting.
But it is, as we talked about, y'all, we wanna bring this back to you. You can kinda look and see at our profit and loss for this year. We're currently just looking at some rough numbers. Unofficially, we're running at about a $37,000 loss just this year on our gas. But the thing to note, and correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, it doesn't include our capital improvements. And so we are mandated by Texas Railroad Commission to, I can't remember the number, but do like
8%.
8% of our lines a year, which is not in our budget. And so that's probably, I mean, I'd hate to even estimate what those costs are, but we're substantially underwater. So we need to see those numbers, we'll have those numbers. This meeting was just to present it to you, who these guys were. They reached out to us. We had a meeting with them initially. And so just to make you familiar with, there's people out there that are looking. A number of our neighbors have done the same things. Those are for these very same reasons. But anyway, we will bring it back to you. We'll discuss more. We'll have some hard numbers for you.
Mayor,
But
most
you
of
get-
that loss in that gas system is our fault.
You mean, like loss of gas, like
Like
percentage?
losing, yeah, percentage of gas or even, revenue, because when was the last time we did a rate study?
Rate study was proposed actually Jeff Snowden did that back in 2020, 21. Part of the challenge is the rate increase, right? And so we've been losing customers for the past years. So I don't recall Rudy, who's been here for several years. I'm sure he knows that one time maybe we had more customers. But part of the challenge is increasing the rates, and we're gonna increase them and not losing customers. So, you know, like anything else, is people are saying, hey, well, I'll just do electric and I'm not gonna even bother with gas. So again, as we're losing customers, we just need to figure out a way, you know, to adjust if we're gonna increase rates. The recommendation in 2020 was not to increase rates at all, because again, we don't have the basis of customers that we do with water and wastewater. So it makes it really challenging for us to increase rates with the, you know, understanding that we'll probably lose customers.
And to get an idea, remember roughly, Hector's not here, but as I recall, we have about 3,000 water taps, commercial and home, and we have less than 900 gas.
What is the number, seven?
People buy systems not because they want to lose money.
I'm looking
They
at it
make
right
money.
now.
What is
I
that?
think it was 700, wasn't 700 and something
Yeah,
customers?
and then with the commercial, it's about 834.
About 800, little over 800 customers, so we have, less than a third of.
Yeah, probably closer to a fourth of our customers use gas. Councilman Leal, what was your question?
No, I was saying people don't buy systems to lose money, so obviously there's money to be made there.
Absolutely.
We're just not capitalizing on it.
We'll have that information where we are for you. Something to think about and consider as we get together. All right, Fred, anything else, council? Do you have any other questions about gas?
No.
Okay, very good. We're gonna move on to, item 8D, presentation of budget revenues. Fred, you wanna run with that for us?
Yes, this will be brief, council. On page 144 of your packet, what we did is gave you a summary of the revenues for the general fund and also for the utility fund. And what you'll find there, and part of it is I think we still need to make some correction on there. But there is on the general fund side, we're anticipating revenues to be about $6.5 million. Now, one of the things that we still need to look at, and we will, is, and I'll go over the big items, I'm not gonna go over everything, is the ad valorem taxes. The ad valorem taxes, we're anticipating $1.6 million. The pilot payment, we're tentatively projecting $725,000. Sales tax, $3 million. And those primarily make up, and I can go into other things, but those make up a good chunk of our operating income as it relates to the general fund. So we are gonna look at sales tax a little closer. We put a $3 million number there, which is a difference of about $200,000 from this year. Then the other one is, we are looking at a potential, and again, we still have to have more discussions on this, is a potential tax rate increase for this year. But again, as we start eliminating things from the budget or adding things to the budget, that's one consideration we're gonna have to look at. Same for the pilot program. We understand that whenever we increase property tax for regular, regular citizens on ad valorem, we're also increasing the dollar amount for the pilot program, because it's based on our, part of the equation is based on our tax rate. So whatever our rate is, that changes that number. So we took that into consideration. A lot of, Ms. Moran, part of the inspections is $70,000. That is also being budgeted for an increase. Well, actually, we've been seeing our building permits and all that go up as far as revenue, so we're